Thanks everybody for joining us today for Live Music Nation, where our goal is to solidify and strengthen live music events, not only for today, but for the future. And so if you're a fan, you're a ticket buyer, you're a band, you're an artist, you're a promoter, a GM, or an event coordinator, this podcast is for you. And I am super pleased to bring on this guy with us today. His name is Eric Blockie. He has a tremendous background. Eric, thanks for joining us today. Tell us just give me a brief rundown in 30 seconds of what you've done in your career and what you're doing right now.
Okay, so first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you here, Jake, and looking forward to some exciting things happening in San Antonio. You know, my history goes back a long way. I was raised in California, and I ended up trying to figure out how to get a job in the music industry, and I started working for a gentleman named Bill Graham at Bill Graham Presents, and I did that for 15 years. I had an opportunity to learn all the back of house and front of house stuff, and became a production manager. So eventually I became a general manager of a venue. I toured with Huey Lewis and the News as an assistant tour manager. I was a production manager for Santana for a while, and then I became a GM for an amphitheater under the direction of Bill Graham Presents. We were rolled up. I ended up helping to design and build an amphitheater in Albuquerque, New Mexico that is still active today for SFX Entertainment. We were bought out by Clear Channel, built an amphitheater in San Antonio, GM that for a while, ran a couple indoor and outdoor venues within the state of Texas. Went back to California for a while for a soccer stadium, and I had an opportunity to come to San Antonio and program the Alamdome and Illusions Theater. And this opportunity came up to be the general manager at the Port San Antonio Tech Port Arena, Eastport Arena, Food Hall, Tech Transfer, and that's kind of the version.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was so excited when I read your resume because I think you're doing amazing things. Let's talk about this past year in this current year. Obviously, we keep hearing the words unprecedented, uncharted territory, but as you know, we're still not out of the woods. And so tell us what you've learned from the past year and what are some of your plans for the future to avoid shutdowns and keeping people coming in your doors and letting them continue live events?
Well, the most important thing is safety. Safety is paramount to everything, and developing the public trust that you are implementing everything that is being projected to us by the local authorities and also the federal authorities. In Texas, it's kind of a unique situation opposed to where I was in California for a while, where we have basically been open. We have been hosting live events since September 16th of last year. We had to develop a COVID protocol, and with the social distancing and the masks and the cleaning and the plexiglass and all of the stuff that would make it safe for the public to come into the venue, we were operating at about 16% capacity.
Wow.
And it worked. It worked. We got fans into the venue. We got the promoters the ability to sell a ticket and have an experience that they probably couldn't have got before, maybe even not unless they were inside Texas or Florida. So we were happy with that aspect of it. We were kind of getting out of the woods, and then we had a saw clearing, and now we seem to be getting back in the woods and using the same protocol. I think is going to get us through this next hurdle, which is what I believe it is. It's a hurdle.
Yeah. Do you feel like these protocols are just something that you're going to keep in place in the future, no matter what happens, so that you can, like you said, keep the public's trust?
I think there's be some aspects of it. You know, I believe that the masks will become, because they're so political on the effectiveness of them. I think those will be the first things to go. But I honestly believe that the hand washing and what people do to sanitize a venue, whether it's fog a venue or whether it's wipe down extra handrails or sanitize stations for the public. I think a lot of the interaction with the artists, the meet and greets, a lot of that stuff is going to probably stick around for a while. And the meet and greets probably could be one of the last things that break, because as you can see, the artists aren't immune to catching the Delta variant or COVID itself or anything. So I think that might be actually one of the biggest hurdles, which is a shame, because we were in a phase where, the artist and the public were able to get a little bit closer.
Sure.
And I think we'll get out of that too.
Yeah, it's funny, the meet and greets. We just got done playing a show with Phil Vassar in Arkansas, and he's one of the first top 40 artists that we've done a show with that actually had a meet and greet. We were pretty surprised by that it went down. So that's interesting that you brought that up. Give me a percent. How many shows in 2020? How many events did you have to cancel total?
We were fortunate enough, and I'm going to make reference to the city of San Antonio, the Alamdome, and the Illusions Theater, where we hosted an event Saturday night with Lisa, and Stevie B. Sold 5,000 tickets, and it was a great event. We have been fortunate enough not to cancel anything.
That's awesome.
We did a Canelo fight, which was socially distanced, in December, and we did a Davis versus Santa Cruz fight. Both were broadcast, and those went off without a hitch. But we've had the Motley Crue's postponed, the Rammstein's postponed to 2022. We have a Los Spooky show that's going to happen next month. That looks like it's pretty strong based on the COVID protocol that Live Nation and the artists have in place for the backstage. So we've been fortunate that we've only had to postpone, and everything seems strong for next year, I believe.
That's awesome. That sounds like you're taking care of everybody in that realm. What's one thing you want fans to know specifically for you and in your future? Because I'm sure that you've had people express disappointment that shows are canceled and protocols have changed, but what's the one thing you want fans, people that are walking in your doors, to know?
Walking in our doors, or anybody's doors, I would hope, is that we're not going to open the doors unless we followed every protocol that you can to make sure you feel comfortable, the artist feels comfortable, and the staff feel comfortable. So, we try to exceed what could or couldn't happen, because perception is everything. And I think we've been successful in that. We were starting to get into a sense that we were getting close to getting out of it, and the Delta hit. But I have to just assure the fans, assure the artists that, all indications from what I've heard publicly and privately is that we're going to get over this one too. Is it going to be in October or November? I don't know. I can't predict. But I honestly believe that by the early part, the first quarter of next year, with a few other changes that I think the public is going to demand after this and the artists, I think we're going to be there. I honestly do. And we'll just have to take one day at a time. But when it comes back, I know that the artists, I know that I know that, everybody else that we're talking to is excited to hit the road, excited to connect with the fans. And I know the fans are excited to connect with their artists too.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So you mentioned the artists. Is there anything, we're just talking to the artists and the bands out there right now, is there anything that they can do now that would help their communication, that would help events to run smoother in the future? Are there some changes that they can make right now when they approach you or a venue owner or a talent buyer or a promoter?
When we are doing events now, and whether it's sporting or music events, we ask for the artists, what do they feel comfortable with as far as the COVID protocol? We did the women's NCAA Final Four and had all 64 teams in town. And you want to talk about a learning experience, bring 64 teams to town. So we have the background. We know what works and doesn't work.
Yeah.
But what does the artist want us to do? how much of a lockdown do you want us to have? How much vaccination? How much is your people going to protect us? You know, we don't want a situation where you're out there touring and you bring something into our venue. So as long as we all communicate and you tell us far enough in advance what you expect, it can be seamless. And I think it's going to be the wave of the future. And we'll just have to take it from there. But just communication. What does the artist want so that they have the best experience, which turns into the fans' best experience?
I love that. That's an amazing advice. I can't wait to share that. So this is the part I've been waiting to talk about. When I've been hearing about esports for a number, and I the only esports that I ever watch, or occasionally I'll watch some races on TV, but I've been hearing about the new arena. Tell us about your arena. I want to spend a lot of time talking about the esports. I mean, I think you guys are doing something there that's, you're like going to be one of the 6 in the nation, right? Arena wise.
I think we are going to be the first one that's been developed from the ground up. You know, I was recently in Dallas, and that was a converted convention center, and I spent some time in Las Vegas, and I went by the Luxor where my daughter spent all my money at that e-gaming site. And I think that used to be a restaurant, but they're both unique in their own way. Dallas being really impressive because they have a permanent structure on the inside, which is maybe a little different than what we're doing. But I think we have a lot more amenities, and we're building ours now. So we're getting the latest and greatest technology. So
it's about what it's going to offer, and because I know it's going to spread. So tell us what the future is looking like.
Well, I had the opportunity when this position was presented to me to become the general manager of Techport San Antonio, and I was just fascinated. I'm kind of like you. I watch the esports, but I only do the racing, and I do it at home to some degree. So I can understand the passion that they have. It's almost as much passion, or maybe even more, than some of the music fans, because they could connect directly with other fans of their thing. But I think the future of esports, I think we're just scratching the surface of it, and I'm betting my career on it. But I believe that we're somewhere in the 20% of what this thing is going to be. But here at Techport San Antonio, we have been at ASM been hired to develop and open this new esport arena that's going to open up in March or April of 2022. And some of the aspects of it is a LAN gaming center that will have 60 stations at it that will be open, 12 to 15 hours a day. And then also inside this space, we have a 3,200 seat arena that will have the best of everything, including 7-to-1 surround sound. So we can't wait for that Pink Floyd show to come into town. But also we'll be able to flex the building to be all GA, or we have retractable seating. It's 2 levels. We have an in-house LED board for the artists. So we're trying to make the arena as artist friendly as possible. So we have the best equipment, the best lighting, and the best you can get for any 3,200 seat venue in the country. So all you have to do, Jake, when you come to play, is bring your monitor board and your front of house board and your backline, and we're ready to rock.
That's
so
awesome.
I think that is going to be an exciting part of it, but also we can convert this arena into an esport arena, and we can start to use the broadcast capabilities that are just unbelievable in this venue to not only host some of the biggest esport events, but also host some of the esport sponsorship events,
right?
And hosting events worldwide, and also hosting events locally. Here at Techport San Antonio, which is Military City, USA.
Right.
The Air Force has moved the entire Air Force gaming component to the U.S. Air Force to Port San Antonio. So we look forward to having a great partnership with them and evolving, the aspects of recruitment, maybe for some of this esport technology into real life experience. And, I believe that what happens in esports is going to happen throughout the country in technology and engineering and a lot of other things that are based on what the kids are learning in the basements right now. And we're happy to be part of the cutting edge of that.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So let me ask you this, because this has been in the back of my mind. Have you produced, because this arena is not complete yet, but do you foresee live music coming into that type of venue and doing virtual reality concerts? Because the biggest problem right now that people are having with virtual reality concerts is just the technology is not there in a lot of people's homes yet. And it's also not there in a lot of people's arenas. But like, I can envision this, paying $100 to be in person at a KISS concert and being able to, with your VR headset, sit there with all your friends. You get to pick where you sit. You get an experience that you'll never get at a live concert because of the intimate atmosphere. Like, do you see that as a possibility? Do you see that as a future for live music? Not exclusively, but as like a premier extra type of thing.
Yeah, we're exploring the added value of being able to present to the promoters, the agents. I have some meetings in Los Angeles next month to present those type of ideas, but also on a smaller scale. We're trying to develop a format that anybody in the world can dial in and watch one or two songs of every show that comes to Techport. Now, taking it to the next level is what you're discussing. You get a VR headset, you can buy a seat. We bring in the additional cameras because our venue is already outfitted with a 4-camera shoot. That if we bring in, we have the technology, we have the bandwidth, and we can host those type of events. But I think what we can do is also connect people worldwide, not only to the artist music that they might not get exposed to, but also Techport itself. Part of our deal points is the first, because every show is getting broadcast on some crappy cell phone.
Right.
So why not let us broadcast it on broadband, broadcast it on a channel that doesn't clip, and let me do 2 songs.
Yeah.
And get that out there. So not only do you get exposure, we get exposure. And I think it's a win-win. And I don't see very many artists saying no, but also, yeah, bringing that technology that we're bringing into the venue so we can host those unique events, and maybe with a small studio audience. And I'm not saying we're going to be Austin city limits on the technology side, but I can see us being something similar to Austin city limits, where we have a limited audience, but you can dial in with your VR headset. Yeah. And would love to see Sony or Microsoft or other people help us get there so it's easily digestible.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, Eric, thank you so much for your time. Let me ask you this last question. Did you ever think you'd be here like 30, 40 years ago? Did you ever think you'd be right here, right now on the frontier of doing something that no one else is doing?
I would say no, but I would say that I've had my eye on esports for a few years, and I might be behind the times a little bit because of my age, but it's the most fascinating thing I've been involved with because I've been kind of fickled about the music business. And this is like a new lease on life. I'm excited about being on the cutting edge. I'm excited about making mistakes, but I'm more excited about the successes. And I'm more excited about having you come and visit us at Techport some on time and broadcasting your show and having a drink.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, Eric. I can't wait for that. Listen, so I'm in Kansas right now. So from all of us in Kansas, I know you spent some time there at Hartman Arena, and I got to see Phil this weekend. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for the interview today. And we'll be watching to see what happens there in San Antonio.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your passion, and hopefully our paths will cross soon. Thank you again.
Oh, absolutely. All right, thanks everybody for joining me today. Live Music Nation podcast, where our goal is to solidify and strengthen the place of live music, not only for today, but for the future. And I'm so excited to bring on our next guest. This is Wayne Rouse from Country Stampede. He has been the GM and buyer for Country Stampede for 25 years, right?
Yep. Actually, we sold Country Stampede last July, and I was still president up until a couple weeks ago, and I'm retired from that part.
I got you.
25 years was a long time, and I loved it, and it's in good hands. So
good. Good. Absolutely. Very cool. Okay. So let's tell me about this past year. What were some of the challenges that you faced this past year, and how did you overcome them? Because, you shut down because of COVID in 2020, just because of local community guidelines and where the risk is at. What challenges did you see in 2021? Because you're really one of the largest live events that happens in the Midwest completely. What challenges did you see?
We were blessed from the standpoint that, the COVID situation was in pretty good shape at that time. The vaccine had been out for quite a while, and the regulations had been relaxed. And our number one concern has always been fan safety, and we felt that we were in good shape, and we haven't had any reports, to the contrary. So I think that it went real well. We were, there's always a concern, like in January, February, March, April. You just keep really close tabs on what's going on and what the options are, as far as if we need to do something. But 21, aside from the rain, which we had quite a bit of,
right?
We made a lot of improvements, added another 300 acres to the ground, moved it onto grass and asphalt, which worked out really well. And going into 2022, I know they're looking at making some more major changes, which will be great. And that's just kind of where we're at right now.
Very cool. Very good. Let's go back to the beginning. What got you started in live music events? That's not something that you just jump into. How did that happen for you?
Well, my dad was kind of in the business from the standpoint that he was president of either the American Legion or the BFW, one of the two, and they always had a big 4th of July celebration where we grew up. So I got to tag along with him when he worked with people like Roger Miller, Michael Landon, Leroy Van Dyke, which those names probably don't mean a lot to the younger people, but at the time they were, at the top of the chart. So that kind of got me started in it. And then I went to work for an agency, and I was up in Janesville, Wisconsin with Trisha Yearwood, doing on-site production. And my friend that worked for the same agency called me up and said, "You need to come over and look at this event." Well, and it was Country Thunder. So Trisha's show was a Sunday afternoon show. So after her show was over and we got her loaded up and she headed out, I drove over to, at that time, it was at Lake Geneva, and pulled into the backstage area. And I walked up on stage just as Tim McGraw was taking the stage. I mean, I was watching the crowd from up there, and the front of house, well, the lights came up and here's all these people. And I just read an article about Kansas being 49th in tourism. And I thought, I'm going to do one of these. And I told that to my friend and the guy that owned the festival, which was standing with us. And he said, "You better have $500,000 in the bank, because that's what you're going to lose the first year." So I spent the summer writing the business plan. And then I have a friend that's a venture capitalist, and he happened to come in my office the day after I finished the proposal, and he read it. He said, "How much do you need?" I said, $500,000. He said, when do you need it? I said, well, a couple days, because I wanted to get an offer in on Tim McGraw, because it was getting close to where a lot of people were going to be putting offers in. And so 2 days later, I had $500,000 in the bank, and we were off and running. We ended up losing about $280,000 the first year, which was really considered a victory on our part. And then from there on out, it just continued to grow. But that's how it got started.
That's awesome. I love that story.
Manhattan, the reason we picked Manhattan was we had a friend in Nashville that said it was a good area for country music. And then also the deciding factor was the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Becky Blake at the time was in charge, and she helped us network with the university as far as security, parking. They had a lot of different departments that we needed, and thankfully they came on board and were very instrumental in our success. And Becky was behind us 100% until she got promoted to state tourism director, and then Karen Hibbard took over and did a fantastic job. So we loved Manhattan.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What do you think the key was and has been for the length of time? Because we've all seen music festivals start up, and they'll maybe make it through that first couple of years, but the consistency, what do you think the key has been for the longevity of Country Stampede?
We've been through a lot of changes in 25 years. When we started Stampede, we didn't have a lot of competition. When we brought a headliner in, there were only a couple other venues like the State Fair or Lincoln had Pershing Auditorium, but they didn't have Intrust or Pinnacle Center or CenturyLink in Omaha or Sprint Center in Kansas City. So when we brought a headliner, it was special. Well, all these buildings, the Coliseums went up, and they started bringing in major headliners, which affected the markets that we were in. That's part of it. And then we always had a great talent buyer in Nashville. You pretty well have to live down there so you know what's going on. And then we were able to route out with some other events. For instance, they could play Grand Junction on Thursday, Greeley on Friday, Manhattan on Saturday, and then go to Wisconsin for Sunday. So we could offer them 4 dates, which was great.
Right.
They didn't have to drive to Manhattan and then lose a day driving back to Nashville or wherever they were going to go. It's just bing, 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 and they could do 4 dates in a row. And that helped out a lot. Today, I would hate to try to start one just because it's changed so much. The prices on virtually everything has really gone up. When we started Stampede, there were still CDs and there were probably still cassettes. And that was a big revenue stream for the artists. And once that went away, a lot of them had to start touring.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of their money. And then, I just happen to think all the casinos that have gone up around that bring in live entertainment, a lot of them are artists that we would have used, and not necessarily A artists, but B and C's that, you don't want to overplay them in the area. So that's that point.
Makes sense. What do you want the fans to know for the future, not only of Country Stampede, but other live events that will happen through this year and next year in the coming years?
Well, there are a lot of things taking place. I just read an article this week on Bonnaroo that it was not determined to be a hot spot or whatever they call it, because they implemented some policies that help keep people safe. The industry is adjusting really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, barring anything unforeseen, I think the outlook looks really good for the future.
Good, good. So we're going to share this and broadcast this with a lot of other artists and a lot of other bands. What is you, as you a promoter and an owner and a buyer, what do you want artists and bands to know when they approach you or when they approach other talent buyers and promoters? What are some things that they can do to make that process smoother and easier for everybody?
That's a good question. I'll tell you, I'm probably averaging 1 submission a day right now from artists, and it picks up, and sometimes I'll be getting 4, but I'll use this as an example. You know, I get an electronic press kit from either, excuse me, sorry.
No, you're good.
Turned off. I'll turn it off. Let's say, okay, so I get an email from an artist in Florida and they want to play Stampede. But the bottom line is I need them to be able to sell me tickets. And if nobody knows who they are, that's not going to happen.
Sure.
So I'm upfront with them, but anybody that sent me a submission, I always respected that. I listened to whatever they sent. I went on their website, you know, just so I could tell them, you know, I appreciate your music, and 99.99% of them were of the caliber that they could have played, you know, Tuttle Bell. Oh, the problem with the main stage is there aren't very many openings, if any, because a lot of times we'll pick up a headliner and we'll need to take their support acts that they've got out on tour with them, you know, so you may be 2 or 3 acts deep just on that. And we take a survey and we go off that, who people want to see. We try to bring them in, and that's paid off really well for us.
You have not shied away ever from the major headliners. I mean, you've had Tim McGraw, Jason Aldean, Eric Church. You scored Luke Combs at the highest peak of his career. Chris Stapleton.
A lot of them.
Yeah. How'd you do that?
Well, it all goes back to the talent buyer out of Nashville. That's a big part of it. And being able to route out with other events.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what does the future for Wayne Rouse look like in the coming years?
Well, I'll probably still be involved, hopefully, with Stampede in some. I really like doing sponsorship.
Okay.
So I have for several years been involved with a lot of big festivals across the nation, you know, in Florida, Arizona, Wisconsin, New York, and I've worked with them, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I just wanted some time to enjoy life.
Yeah. I mean, so being a promoter and an owner and a GM all in one of a major festival, I mean, that's a year-round venture. I'm making the assumption because I just, you know, every day on that Saturday night, boom, you already have your next headliner lined up, and you're announcing that and you're promoting it. And like you said, you're rebooking your vendors, and it's just a steady job, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of the funny things is, you know, I'll be out somewhere and somebody will say, "What do you do for a living?" And, you know, I used to say, "Well, I'm president of Country Stampede." I started it and they go, "Oh yeah, we've heard of that." Well, what do you do the rest of the year? Well, we would already be planning and possibly even looking at talent for 2023 at this point. Just, you put the offers in early so you can announce them at the event. Now, this past year was different just because of COVID and people deciding when they were going out. A lot of them were making up dates from 2020, and we're going to have to do some of that in 2022. So this is kind of an off year, but they should be able to announce, hopefully within the next month, some of the talent.
Yeah,
but
very good. That's awesome.
Anyway,
well, Wayne, thank you for joining us today. It's been a blessing to know you over these years, and you've been great to me and my band and my career, and so many others. I mean, you've brought so much talent just across the Midwest, and you've built a brand that sustained not only COVID but floods and tornadoes, and it's something that stands alone by itself. And Country Stampede has been fantastic for live music, and your leadership has been incredible. So thank you for all your years of service and dedication, hard work, and we will all be following you and looking to see you not only at Stampede in the future years, but what else we'll be looking to see where else quote unquote retirement brings you. And I'm sure that you're like most of us, and you want to be busy, and you're happy doing that. And it sounds like you're happy helping other people and with sponsorships and things like that. So
yeah, well, I have really enjoyed watching your career grow. You're doing great. Haven't seen you since July 4th.
Right.
At Wild West Fest. But yeah, it's really been great. It's one fun part is to watch.
Sure.
Some of the artists really continue to grow and be able to say, hey, I knew him back when, Yeah. So absolutely. I wish you the best.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. No, I'm super grateful. So, well, thanks for joining us today.
Wayne, thank you.
We will be in touch, and look forward to see what happens in your future.
Okay. You take care.
Thanks, Wayne.
Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine and a no joke.